could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to
Recording in progress.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Jennifer, let's start with a roll call, please.
Arnold,
Here.
Easter,
Here.
Gunther,
Here.
Rendell,
Here.
Ackley.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Do we have any requests for agenda changes? No. All righty. How about approval of minutes? I read them. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
This, Mr. Gunther, motion to approve minutes from our
January
meeting.
1st.
I second.
All right. Approved? Ayes? Guys?
Do you
All right.
roll call vote on that, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, let's just roll call everything. Thank you.
Arnold,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
Rendell,
Yes.
Ackley,
Yes.
Easter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Let's see. I don't think we have anything here. Communications. Jen, we had a few communications.
Yes, there
on
were
this one?
2 communications in regards to the case this evening. Would you like them read into the record now?
Yes, please. Let's go ahead.
Okay. There were 2 communications in regards to our case this evening, case number 2022-4, in regards to Mr. Frank Christopher, applicant, location 174 South Pontiac Trail. First letter we received is from Mr. Jerry Anderson at 127 South Pontiac Trail. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals members, having reviewed the applicant's plans and reasons for wanting to build a shed on the property, I could not agree more that the variances should be approved. The current setbacks of 30 feet from the lake and 30 feet from Pontiac Trail are unrealistic based on how close the road is to the lake. The low profile of the shed fits the lot and does not affect views of the lake for neighboring owners. Thanks, Jerry Anderson. Second correspondence for Mr. Tim Vorse, 148 South Pontiac Trail, regarding case 2022-04. Jennifer, this is in reference to a structure proposed by my neighbor Frank Christopher. I live 2 doors down. I have reviewed the structure plan that Frank has submitted, and I think it would be a great addition to the waterfront. Please approve this project. Sincerely, Tim Vorse.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then unfinished business. We don't have any, right? So let's go to new business, which would be 2022-04. Jen, you want to read that in, please?
Yes. This matter relates to the above referenced property. Applicant proposes constructing a 320-square-foot beach storage shed on the waterfront portion of applicant's single-family waterfront lot, which would require 2 setback variances from the following sections of the zoning ordinance. Section 51-21.10 C2B requires accessory structures on waterfront lots to be set back a minimum of 30 feet from the water's edge as required by Article 17, Schedule of Regulations. Applicant proposes constructing a 320-square-foot beach storage shed set back 9 feet from the water's edge, which requires a 21-foot variance from the 30-foot waterfront yard setback requirement. Item 2, Section 51-2110C2A requires accessory structures on a single-family waterfront lot to be set back a minimum of 30 feet from an adjoining street as required by Article 17, Schedule of Regulations. Applicant proposes constructing a 320-foot square foot beach shed setback 20 feet from Pontiac Trail and adjoining street, which requires a 10-foot variance from the 30-foot front yard setback requirement.
All righty. Let's see. Let's go to the audience. Anybody representing Mr. Christopher? Frank?
Yes, please approach the podium and speak directly into the mic. Thank you.
Yep. State your name, everything, please, for us. 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Brandon Grisco. I'm an attorney with the law firm Fossil & Bond based in Northville, and I'm here to represent the Christopher family with respect to this petition. I can begin?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay,
Thank
sorry
you
about that. So first of all, for the benefit of the commissioners that are here in person, I have some renderings, which I don't know if they have the ability maybe to share those somehow with those of you that are attending remotely, but if I could, I'd like to approach and share some of these renderings here that show how aesthetically pleasing this proposed construction would be. Sir, if I can give this to you, and maybe you could just look at it and pass me on.
Are they in addition, excuse me, to what was provided in the packet? Are they just blown up pictures, or are they something different?
Same
Pictures,
Okay,
Just larger.
just larger.
okay.
They're
Thank you for asking, Jen.
Yes, board, okay,
Nice.
thank you.
Nice idea.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the commissioners indulging me in that. The Christopher family's been residents here since 1999 with beautifully landscaped property. Have always been good residents and good citizens here. I'd like to just take a few moments to address the specific non-use factors that are related to the use at issue here, which is private non-commercial recreational use, which I believe the planning department has previously found very much so to be in compliance with the spirit of the regulations here, although of course the variances are required in order to vary from the setback requirements involved. So the property for the Christopher family here, due to the character of the property, the zoning regulations, in order to use this property and to be able to really construct anything at all on this property, they're going to require these variances. There's a triangle-shaped piece on the plans that you have, and that piece without the variances is the only place where anything potentially could be built here. And as you can see, that's sort of an unworkable spot to try and fit something into. And so this prefabricated shed really would fit very nicely with the character of the lot, exactly where it's at, as indicated on the plan. So for those reasons, first of all, of course, that we would request the variances for that reason. Additionally, this is being proposed in order to promote the safety and welfare of the Christopher family and their guests. This is very important because they live off of Pontiac Trail, and the speed limit there is 30 miles per hour, but of course there's traffic constantly flying up and down the road. It's an odd-shaped lot that abuts the lake and the roadway there, and so for safety reasons it's important to have a shelter there to avoid crossing back and forth multiple times over Pontiac Trail as the family goes to retrieve, say, equipment or supplies from the house or something like that. So very important for the safety issues. As far as substantial justice to both the petitioner and the surrounding neighborhood, we've obviously received two letters in support. I don't know that anybody is opposed to the project. At the Planning Commission level, there was absolutely no opposition whatsoever to this project, and so I hope the commissioners would take that into consideration as well. Additionally, I hope the commissioners would take into consideration the odd shape of the property at issue here. It sort of tapers as you go from northeast to southwest. And I think that's a rather unique characteristic as you look at the shape of other parcels on the lake. They tend to be more of a sort of a square shape, with this parcel being somewhat more of a trapezoid type shape. And so because the property is unique in its shape, and of course I pointed out the triangle shape on the plans, which would be the only buildable space. So due to the unique characteristics of the property, these variances would certainly be appropriate in order to use some area of the property to construct this private recreational use shed. And lastly, there were no, as far as I recall anyway, there were no city departments that had any issues with this project. I believe it was even noted that the project itself would not have any impact on sight lines for traffic or anything like that. And lastly, you can see from the renderings that from the roadway, this would basically be entirely invisible to traffic passing by. And of course, you can see how aesthetically pleasing it is. So from the lake, people looking out to the property from the lake are going to see something that looks nice and is in keeping totally with the character of the community already. So at this time, we would simply be asking the Zoning Board of Appeals to approve the two variances that are on the agenda for tonight. And myself and the Christopher family are here and available to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. I'd like to open it up. Is there any further audience participation for this one?
So, Mr. Chair, yes, we will go further with those in person, and then we'll confirm with Ms. Jackways if there's any online. One key note here for those of you that are online. For those members that are online who wish to speak during audience participation, we do ask that you press star 9 on your telephone keypad. That action will activate the raise hand feature on our end to acknowledge you. Again, that's star 9 on your telephone keypad. Okay, sir, would you please approach the podium and state your name and address? And you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Sure, I don't think I'll need 3. So my name's Adrian Hill. I'm at 162 South Pontiac Trail. I'm Frank's immediate neighbor to the northeast. I've looked at the plans, and for exactly the same reasons, for safety, we also have guests traveling to and from across Pontiac Trail. It gets ever busier, especially with the traffic lights there. There's often traffic speeding down. And I fully support the need for a shed for storage, just to limit the number of trips. And one thing further is, having seen the plans and the rendering, I think actually in conjunction with all the other landscaping that Frank's done on this property would look really very nice. And I don't know any of the other surrounding neighbors that have any problem with it. In fact, everyone's in full support. So that's my input for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person that would like to speak? No? Okay. Is there anybody online?
I do not see any hands raised.
All right, there's no, one moment. I'll let you go ahead and introduce. I can't see the screen.
Okay, phone number ending in 7687. Can you hear us?
Yes, this is Dennis Kaiser.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Please state your name and address, Mr. Kaiser, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm Dennis Kaiser at 813 East Walls Lake Drive. And listening to the attorney and the plans proposed, along with the city traffic, I get that myself down the street. I believe this would be a much safer way to propose storage out by his waterfront. Well, I'm in agreement with the construction there.
All right. Mr. Kaiser, that's all?
Yeah, that's it, yes.
All right. Thanks, Dennis.
Is there any further online? Mr. Chair, there is no further online.
All right. I'll turn it over to the board. Any questions you guys might have? Jamie, Phil, we'll go with their mayor.
City planner, maybe? Ortega?
Yeah, I didn't see anything, this is Chairperson Gunther, I didn't see anything from McKenna. Was there a reason we didn't get anything from them this time?
There was a, this case initially went before the Planning Commission for site plan approval and special land use approval. McKenna did prepare a plan review memo for this project, outlining the various issues in the scope of the project itself in regards to the Planning Commission's review of the case. Apparently those plan review memos didn't make it into your packet, but those they do describe the project and the need for the two variances. The Planning Commission did grant the requested special land use approval, which deals with the use of the lot as for the shed use. That was conditional upon the applicants obtaining the necessary setback variances from the ZBA. So that's really the scope of what's before you tonight are the two setback variances. There is a for waterfront lots, there is a requirement in the zoning ordinance that says there can be no accessory structures within 30 feet of the water's edge. That's what we call the waterfront yard setback requirement. So all accessory structures, all principal structures for that matter, have to be set back at least 30 feet from the water's edge. They can't be located within that waterfront yard area. And the idea there is to create sort of a buffer zone around the lake so that it doesn't get too crowded or cluttered up close to the lake, and that helps to enhance the views of the lake. There's also a 30-foot setback requirement that applies to the to Pontiac Trail as well. So they have to be, so any structures have to be at least 30 feet setback from the waterfront. That's the waterfront yard setback requirement. And they also have to be set back 30 feet from the road as well. And that's just your traditional road front setback requirement that you would have, you know, pretty much in any case. So those are the two variances that they're asking for and that are needed for this particular project.
Thanks, Van. I had a question towards that also. So the planning work was done, and it's different than the 5 questions for a variance, right? So we have the 5 that McKenna normally goes through and does the work on and asks the questions over about encumbrance, or is it, you know, self-imposed and all of that. We don't have that report. That wasn't part of theirs, right?
No, it was not. And, you know, that is something that is really your findings on those 5 requirements are within the exclusive province of the ZBA itself. It's not up to the city staff or consultants to tell you whether or not those requirements have been satisfied in any particular case. So it's up to you guys to decide. What happens is each of those requirements is set forth in the application form that is provided to you, and the applicants and their spaces below each one of those requirements that the applicants are required to fill out and make their case as to why they feel that they've met those requirements. Now, the applicant is the one that bears the burden of demonstrating to the satisfaction of the ZBA that each of those requirements has been met in any given case. And keep in mind, these are not planning requirements, these are legal requirements. They don't have anything to do with planning. They're legal requirements that are required under our zoning ordinance, and it's up to you to decide each case, whether the facts of each case warrant a finding of whether the strict compliance would be unnecessarily burdensome, or whether it's been self-created, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's up to you guys to make that decision, make that call. It's not really up to the planning consultant to do that for you.
No, understandable.
Because they are legal requirements, you could ask for a legal review of that, and that's something that I could provide to you if you requested it. It's not something that I can just volunteer to you unsolicited.
Right.
But if you did want some type of input from staff or some sort of professional input on those legal requirements, then if you can ask for that, and that is something that I can provide for you. But it would just be a legal recommendation.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, this is just the first time I can remember not having the McKenna report. They're always provided, and
Yeah.
the city obviously employs them to as part of their regular routine, I guess, because I haven't not seen one except for this case, and it's we take their information into account as well as everyone else, but as this board has proven in many cases that we do make our own decisions, but it is nice to have that information for sure. And especially with, kind of the importance of this, because this is going to be the first one in Walled Lake. So this is kind of a pivotal variances. It will be referred to from here on out. They're the first one. So I just want to make sure we have all our ducks in order and due diligence. And yes, I would like to request the legal counsel.
And just to
please.
clarify for you, the planning, the way the variance is, the process for determining whether a variance is needed in any given case starts with a plan review. And it depends on whether it is, and who does the plan review. It's usually either the building official or the city planner, depending on the nature of the project. If the project requires site plan review, then typically the planning consultant will do the planning review and make the initial determination as to what, if any, variances he or she may feel are needed in that case. If it doesn't require site plan approval, then it's usually the building official that does the plan review and makes that initial determination. They can and should provide you with a memo of their plan review. Sort of a narrative summary of the project and what the relevant dimensions and distances and so forth are that you need to be aware of for purposes of making your decision, so that you have an understanding of what the case is about, and also the ordinance itself that may apply there as well. So there certainly is a role there for the building official or the planning consultant who's doing the planning review to help educate you in the case. But as far as your findings on the 5 individual requirements, those are strictly legal requirements. Those are not requirements that arise under the building code. They are not planning issues. They are legal issues. They are legal requirements. If you require any input on those, then, like I said, you can ask for that, and that is something that I can provide for you if you need it. But
Right.
It's something I would do on a case-by-case basis. It's not something that is provided to you unsolicited and just volunteered.
Yep. Yeah, we'd certainly ask for that. Thank you.
I would like to make a couple comments, Chairman, if I could.
Go ahead, Mayor. I just wanted to say one thing too, that, with Vance's comments, that when you mentioned the ordinance and this being new to Walled Lake, I mean, this very well based on, as it goes on and more people, I mean, I kind of have a feeling that the folks making comments that are on the lakefront and that appreciate this, and that there will be more, and probably a lot more within our area that would like to do the same thing. And, we may have to, it may even force a rewrite of the ordinance of the lakefront lot for, to allow structure. But, that's something that we have to go forward in time and prove out. So that's all I wanted to add to that. Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got some comments here. I think we have our detailed report from the Planning Commission minutes. It has laid out what the planner, his comments on this issue. And then going into some of the questions that was asked, I know there's been concern about sidewalks. We're discussing it at DDA and the council. There are already sidewalks here along Pontiac Trail. They're on the opposite side of the road where the majority of the right-of-way is. And if sidewalks were even thought of being put on the lake shore, there would be so much property acquisition that it would be kind of a silly thing for the city to even consider. We do have the sidewalks. We're going to spend, hopefully, a lot of money improving the sidewalks and the walkability in Wall Lake. And I don't see why in this particular area we're even thinking that we would want sidewalks on both sides of the road. The cost would just be a silly cost to spend. As far as a report from the planner, I've been on ZBA now probably longer than I've been on the city council. And I don't remember always getting a detailed report from the planner. We've been referred a lot of items from the Planning Commission for variances, and they generally come through with the minutes. But I do see that Mario is on tonight if we had a specific question of him. I think in reading the 5 criteria, I think the applicant is pretty well spelt everything out. I mean, this is a very unique piece of property in its length and the narrowness of the property. And I think he does definitely have some issues here. Is there probably a need to rewrite at some point our ordinance just because of the small size as you go from Pontiac Trail towards 14 Mile Road? Yes, that is a possibility. But I think this plan has been well thought out. We can see that it is not going to be visible from Pontiac Trail. It's a beautiful site that's been created. Mr. Christopher has always maintained this. When he came to the board years ago and asked to have a fence along Pontiac Trail, we worked out an agreement with him and he put in the arborvitaes. He has always maintained those. They're currently, well, I haven't seen them this spring since the snow has left, but they're always maintained and very well landscaped. I just don't think that Mr. Christopher at this point should be penalized because we think there are changes that we need to make down the road. This is March. If we postpone it to April, construction is going to go into May and June, and that's the beginning of the lake usage. And I personally don't see a problem with the information that we have. I would be very able to make a decision tonight. So I do have a problem with even thinking of carrying this over because the city might want to change the ordinance.
Well, and Mayor, again, this is new, right? It's all new. There are some details I think that we should work out. I mean, one of them on the sidewalk, like you mentioned. Mario, did you have details on that left over? Because it touched on it in your planning minutes, but not great detail.
Yes, Chairman Easter. I mainly included that in my review because it is a requirement within the plan and the zoning ordinance. However, there have been multiple instances in which the Planning Commission would have not required a sidewalk for practical purposes, and those others. So it was a matter of raising the issue and having the Planning Commission discuss it and determine if it was something that would be necessary in that situation. And then just in general to have a discussion about the future of that side of the street to see if it's necessary. But as the mayor just indicated, that might be something that the cost benefit analysis of that might not weigh itself out.
Right, because we have sidewalk on that side from the condos to that first small brick house, but nothing after that, right? I mean, where the older White House, I forgot the doctor's office, and
Correct.
Right west, there's no.
Yep.
Right.
Correct. And normally, while we, as a city, we want to have as complete a sidewalk system as possible, it makes sense to focus the limited resources we have on connecting desirable locations or public locations. So, for example, from A Park to downtown, or something to that effect. This
Sure.
might be that connection going southbound on Pontiac Trail might not be as necessary at the moment, mainly because of it would would go down and then eventually just almost dead end with along those houses, and only serve the property along that side of the street.
Right. The mayor had a good point there. Like you said, the cost, and then the tear up and headache with what's already along that. I agree with that as well. I just wanted to make sure that isn't a necessity and something that we were looking at, because it had been touched on in the planning meeting. So thank you for clearing that up.
And Chairman, if I may, just to point something out, you do bring up a good point that the city should take a look at its ordinances whenever there's a certain amount or a trend, if you will, with variances. As you pointed out, this is really the first variance request with regards to installation of a structure on the lake side of properties, that on a lot that is doesn't have a normal building envelope. We obviously have structures, but they're for principal structures. This is an instance in which it would be a accessory structure for the use. And so the Planning Commission is ready. We actually have had discussions before about the possibility of amending the ordinance to allow for this type of storage structure on a lakeside lot. And because of the way our ordinance is structured, and all ordinances are structured, the applicant has gone through the process first of obtaining a special land use. So to establish a principal use of the site, and then gone through the site plan process. So that's something that, if it was not for the fact of the unique characteristics of the lot and the fact that this wasn't self-created, they might have been able to fit this particular structure in a building envelope. It's just that the issue is there isn't a substantial building envelope existing.
Yeah, and I want us to do due diligence in this, because, I mean, like you said, if this goes forward, I mean, if I want to use Nova as the example, right? You've got some not so nice structures that qualify as a shed. You've got some shipping containers that qualify as a shed. You've got some extremely, I won't call them extravagant, they're super nice structures down there that are, sheds, technically. And we need to get structure height, spacing. I mean, all of that needs to be considered in the future, right?
It's absolutely correct. And that's something that I think the city has taken a great deal of care with the view sheds of the property owners and of the public, because we just altered the fence ordinance to allow for fences, but in a method that allows to preserve the views. So just like you said, there's a lot of different ways it could go. We see it in other communities, and it would be a question for the Planning Commission from a planning standpoint to consider if this becomes a trend.
Yeah. And I can't see us spending every Monday at okaying a shed without doing the smart thing and, approving an ordinance that possibly could allow such an item on the lakeside. So,
hey, Jason, this is Mr. Gunther.
I agree with the Chairman that I don't have a problem with you saying that the ordinance needs to be visited, and I think that it does. And I think if we had a plan being presented to us that was even a little bit offensive to the city, I could understand it. I could understand making the applicant wait until the city goes through its months of review and revision and all of this. But being that we are presented with a first-class plan that would probably fit in with any variant or any ordinance that we might rewrite. I mean, this plan, I have problems calling this a shed, but he's going to use it for storage, so I guess it is a shed. But it's very unique, a very nice-looking structure. And again, it is not visible from the road. He's got a unique site here. And I think we could go ahead, based on the criteria that he's answered, go ahead and approve this, and then make a motion to refer it over to council, that authorization be done to start a plan revision, because these lots in this area are much larger than when you start going towards 14 Mile Road from the old downtown. There is going to be a lot of problem with those lots, and they do need to be addressed. They're very small compared to this one. So I think we can do justice to the applicant and still do justice to our job as a board and refer this to council to authorize an ordinance revision, or at least to review the ordinance.
Thanks, Mayor. Gunther, do you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Christopher, beautiful design, right? Love it, right? And you're a great neighbor. I'm sure you will keep it world class. It's going to open Pandora's box, right? And we've got, as city council's got to address this. And I don't necessarily have a problem even going forward and approving today, but we've got to address it. I don't know why we would prevent them from having power and water, because most people, once you start approving these accessory structures, they're going to do it anyway with not being done properly. So you're going to have people putting water and power underneath the road. There's no reason they shouldn't be allowed to have it. It's the right thing to do, right? You've got an accessory structure for your boat. Why you wouldn't have a little bit of water and a little bit of power doesn't make a lot of sense. We definitely need to rewrite the ordinance. These people need to be allowed to use that property properly. But when you do open Pandora's box, the next thing you're going to have is a lean-to at the next lot, and they go, well, Mr. Christopher was allowed to have this thing up there. So I think we definitely have to address it. I don't think, Linda, I don't think you could do 3-4 months of debating about it, right? You got to put something in place that makes a lot of sense, is well thought out, and redo the ordinance. Because we really are, and I have no problem approving today, but we're opening Pandora's box for whatever. Now, Mr. Christopher could put 4 wheels in the bottom of his accessory structure and it's not actually tied to the land. That would be fine too, right? But we're definitely going to get some neighbors that aren't as conscientious as Mr. Christopher, and we need to address that.
Yeah, and that was my point.
We're going to end up under the current ordinance coming in front of this board.
Yeah, I don't want to do it every Monday night.
Could at that time address it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, but should we keep...
I was probably short-sighted when I said 3 to 4 months. Look how long it took to review the fence ordinance.
Yeah.
Much, much longer period of time. I don't know, maybe Jennifer or Mario can tell us how long it was. I lost track of the time. I think it was almost 2 years.
Yeah.
By the time council first said do something with it, and it finally got done. And I just don't see the fairness in that when you're being presented with an improvement like they're wanting to make from both the roadside and the lakeside. To force them to wait 2 years.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with you, Linda. But we got to move at the speed of, like, not months to review something simple as this. We need to redo it. We need to do it faster. And I think it's different. It's separate from Mr. Christopher's application today. But everybody's going to be coming. Everybody.
Right. And we've already got one up for next month, is my understanding. That, somebody's already applied for another next month. And I would kind of like to bundle them together if at all possible, but, you know, we, like Gunther said, we have a lot here in the positive for this. The one thing I wanted to comment is it was brought up by Frank's representative was I was looking at the lot dimension, and on the opposite side from where this is, the lot dimension is 76.4 feet. 30 feet from the road, 30 feet from the water, leaves you 16.4 feet, and the structure is only going to be 16 foot wide. Seems like it fits without a variance on that side. Just kind of curious at why that wasn't considered. Yes, you'd have to take out a tree, plant a new one, but, you know, given the fact that, you know, one tree, deciduous or evergreen for every 3,000 feet is part of the ordinance, you're well within your planting structure. To be able to remove a tree, you have that distance. The only thing it might do is compromise the pathway, which is easily moved inward, and then the shed could be put there. Any reason you didn't consider, I'd like to hear why it wasn't considered there. I mean, the fact that you could see it from the road really isn't a reason to me, is once we put one in, everybody wants one.
So
You're
Mr.
just going to
Chair-
be the first kid on the block with one.
Mr. Chair, if I may address that, I'd be happy to. It's an excellent question. I think for this site, all potentialities were considered, but if you look at the plans that you have, it shows a relatively small building envelope. I think that's the term that the city planner used in terms of there not really being an adequate building envelope on the property here. In addition to that, I would also like to address some comments that I've heard relating to opening the floodgates or opening Pandora's box and things like that. And as I'm sure your legal counsel would also advise on this, these are all case-by-case determinations for this board. So I don't necessarily think that approving Mr. Christopher tonight, which I do think is warranted, considering the factors that are contained within the zoning ordinance that I touched on and that are, of course, included in the application. But you also, in addition to this body making a case-by-case determination based on factors that are laid out in the ordinance, you also have the Planning Commission, in this instance, acting as a gatekeeper, because there may not always be special land uses and site plans that get approved by the Planning Commission, because please remember, Mr. Christopher is only here tonight because he presented this excellent plan to the Planning Commission. So that body, acting as a gatekeeper, has the ability and the discretion to request and even require, in certain instances, modifications to that site plan or potentially the structure itself. Require, of course, potentially zoning board approval for variances and things like that, or they may even deny the special land use request of the site plan outright. So, you know, these are case-by-case determinations. Certainly don't think that Mr. Christopher, with his plans that we've heard from the board, are, I think, good to understate it. Quite frankly, these are good plans, and we do want to protect the views from the road, the sight lines of traffic and things like that, while still providing safety for Mr. Christopher, his family, and their guests as they use the structure without having to cross the busy Pontiac Trail as much. And additionally, with respect to any other factors in the ordinance, which I think I've touched on adequately orally here, but also are contained in the application, I'm happy to address, from the petitioner's perspective, any of the factors that this board has questions on. Of course, you know, I want the board to make a reasoned decision to the extent possible, and so if council has to give a recommendation, that's fine, but I'm also here tonight, and we're hoping to move this forward tonight with an approval with your support. So with that, of course, any questions that you have, I'm open to answer those.
All right. Understood. Mario, you have your hand up.
If I may.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Just some points of clarification for everyone with regards to your comments on the site plan itself. You're right. Sometimes you're right. As the ZBA, you can look at a lesser variance. However, the ordinance requires that in the R1A district that there is the side yard setback, and that the accessory structure can't be located within the required side yard. So in this case, even though they have 15 feet there and 10 on one side, they could flip it, but the other issue you're going to face is that the lot starts to taper in depth.
Yeah,
to go
it
from
still
that
needs
76 to that 42. So it's kind of hard to determine, but there's like I forget my geometry. I don't know if that's an isosceles triangle or what that is, but it's a pretty narrow
Rectangle.
triangle as it goes. And while I agree, you might have like by the time you shift it over, you might have an extra 10 feet. It's going to start tapering down to it as it goes westbound.
Yeah, I agree. You'd still need a variance on that side. Sorry to interrupt, but you'd still need a variance on that side. But you'd at least be able to pull it up from the water and down, because the neighbor to the south side then gets 9 feet of view. I mean, he'd have to come all the way down to the lake to look down the lake with the shed there. Granted, there's arborvitaes there, but I mean, if arborvitaes ever go away, then the shed remains, and he's narrowed to the 9 feet. So I'm just wondering any reason why we just didn't put it on the wider side as opposed to the narrowest side. I mean, you're going to get a variance, but you have far more room, and you could probably accommodate one of the 30-footers as opposed to a 20 and a 9. That's just, and you're crossing the street the same number of times. It's the view. I'm thinking would be the same whether you put it on the right or the left side of it. I don't see a detractor in use. I was just looking for why that side wasn't considered. Or would it? Or would it?
We have, I guess the only other issue that we don't really have here in context is the change in topography. Because if you notice, they do have the retaining wall, and I can't recall if it does slope up on the east side versus the west. Because that's one of the reasons that in this particular case, it's going to be a 10-foot, I believe 10 or 11-foot high structure, but it won't be seen from the street because it's going to be below street level.
Gotcha.
I don't know if the and I just don't recall if the grade increases as it goes eastbound. And maybe that's a reason. I'm not sure, but
If I may, the grade does increase, and one of the specific things that the petitioner in this case took into consideration was the idea of trying to keep this neutral from the point of traffic as it drives by, not maybe being distracted by an additional structure, but also for his own home and for neighboring homes for the sightlines, as that obviously on waterfront property has a proclivity to be extremely contentious, as we've seen in various cases from around the state. So I think the idea was to protect those sightlines to the extent possible. And Mr. Chair, to the point about neighboring properties and things like that, I believe Mr. Christopher, for the large extent, has the support of his community in this, so I don't think the neighboring property is going to be a problem here. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. No, thank you. I wanted to just make sure that we covered it. The other was, Gunther mentioned as far as the electrical and water. Yeah, let's not take that off the table. We wouldn't restrict you for, put that handcuff on you. You're going to build a nice place, and like Gunther said, use it to the fullest for your family's enjoyment. You're going to put a lot of money into it, and I would rather you do it the legal and right way, as opposed to, there are properties around the lake that have sleeved the road that have power that probably aren't on the books. But let's do it all above board and correctly. You're doing it right this way. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't continue to do that, and we don't want to stop you from that either. So that would not be part of this at all. We would not do that. Landscaping wise, you're set. I mean, I don't see anything there. The only thing is along Pontiac Trail, I did have to question Mario, the height, when we're talking about a barrier from the roadway and fences being 4 foot and with contiguous arborvitaes that create a blocking barrier, so you can't see through. We don't have anything on that, right? So far as planting, creating 100% block?
Within our new ordinance, we do, because that was a condition we wanted to address with regards to visibility, in regards to height, in regards to opacity. And so that's why the types of structures that were allowed for visibility through. However, as the mayor indicated, this was a condition that was granted years ago. So maybe at that point in time they had their obviously the ordinance was different than what we currently have now.
Right.
So basically they're legally not conforming initially, but they might actually be completely conforming because I'm not familiar with their approvals that they were granted.
Okay.
So the chances are probably completely conforming.
Yeah, and I just want,
piece
Go
of
ahead,
property.
Mayor.
And the compromise, when the fence request came in front of the zoning board,
excuse me.
was to plant the arborvitaes and make this contiguous border that now exists. So if you went back through the records, you would find where this was actually approved by the ZBA.
Before my time. Okay. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure, and that is all, I want to cover everything tonight. So we don't
I
want
have a question.
multiple trips.
Dennis?
Go ahead, Mr. Wolf, go ahead.
I have a question. If the setback of 30 feet was not there, if it met the requirements, if there was room for the 30-foot setbacks, would it need the variance? It's one question.
No.
The other question is, you have these shrubs or whether these tall trees or something blocking the view. If you go further down East Wild Lake Drive, on the other side of the beach and some of the homes there, you have a lot of plots of land that various homeowners associations own that. And during this winter, what they do is they pull out their dock and just put it on the property there and stack it up. And you see that every time you're driving by. So here, I see it's very well hidden from the street. You have homes that are built right there by the beach, blocking the view of the lake. So I don't see how this is going to be such a major problem of approving it. That's all.
Yeah, we're not complaining about the landscape. I just want to make sure we don't have anything we need to cover so far as the ordinance goes with it, that's all. So yeah, we're saying that he's got it well landscaped, so that's not an issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to address Board Member Wilson's initial question about whether or not a variance would be needed if they were somehow able to fit it on the lot within 30 feet of the street and both the lake. And the difficulty here is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Right. You have to look at each lot individually. Under our zoning ordinance, there's a difference between a platted lot and a zoning lot. And our zoning ordinance employs a zoning lot concept. And if you look at the definition of lot in the zoning ordinance, it's pretty broad. In fact, it expressly states that it can include, a single zoning lot can include multiple lots under common ownership. So what you have to do is you have to look at each one of these on a case-by-case basis to determine, should this be treated as a single zoning lot, or should the lake, or should the portion of the lot between the lake and the road be treated as a separate lot, separate and distinct from the lot across the street where the house is built? And that's a case-by-case determination. There may be circumstances where, you know, the ownership of the lot between the lake and the road isn't tied to the ownership of the lot across the street. The lot between the lake and the road may be buildable. It may be big enough to where it has a buildable building envelope on it. And in that situation, it might be appropriate to treat the lot between the lake and the road as a separate lot, separate and distinct from the lot across the street where the house is located. Other circumstances might dictate a different result. It might be to where the lot across the street from the lake where the house is tied to the ownership of the lot that's between the road and the lake, and the lot between the road and the lake is very small, it's not buildable. so on and so forth. So those are the different factors that have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis for determining whether or not that lot, or that portion of the lot between the lake and the road should be treated as a single lot that includes the main portion of the lot across the street where the house is, or whether or not the two parcels should be treated separately as individual lots. And it just varies from case to case. There's no one single answer. There's no one-size-fits-all type of approach. It also depends on the underlying zoning of the lot itself. You know, whether it's single-family, multiple-family. You'll see a case next month when the underlying zoning is multiple-family instead of single-family. So these are all, there's no answer, right or wrong answer that applies in every single case, which should help dispel some of your concerns about setting some type of a precedent. As counsel for the applicant has indicated, it's a case-by-case determination. So just because you're approving this case, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to approve the next case that comes before you. We'll look at those individually as they come before us and decide, you know, what the best approach is in terms of evaluating them.
Thank you.
This is Mr. Gunther. I've been back and forth a couple times on thinking about delaying, thinking about trying to get the council to rewrite the ordinance, but now I'm down to, I really like you people, but I don't want to stay any longer. I'd like to make a motion to approve case 2022-04, Mr. Frank Christopher, request for variance, which is section 512110C2, granting a 21-foot variance from the 30-foot setback, and also number 2, which is 512110C2, the 10-foot variance from the 30-foot front yard setback requirement.
This is Arnold, I second.
Did someone second it? I didn't.
Yes, it's been seconded. Jen, could you put it to a vote, please?
Is there any discussion before there's vote?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The discussion, the only thing is, Van, I would like to catch up with you. It's not part of the motion, obviously, but I would like to take you up I would request if we could have a meeting for discussion, please. It's just questions that I have. It's just you and me.
Legal advice?
Well, yeah, yeah, you could, you know, I'm always free to speak with, you know, if you have a question, you can contact me at my office and I can address that with you individually.
Yep. Thank you.
I would just recommend that for purposes of the motion that's currently on the table, that you add to that, that the motion is based on your finding that the applicant has made the required showing for the reasons stated and set forth in the applicant's application.
Yeah, I forgot that. Thank you, man.
Jen, you got it?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Okay, then. And no further discussions? Okay, Jen, roll call, please.
Gunther,
Yes.
Rundell,
Yes.
Ackley,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Easter.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. I don't think we have anything else.
The only thing I would ask,
What do you
Jason, if you really want this to be reviewed for a possible change to the ordinance, maybe we should make a motion that it be referred over to council to make the decision to send it to the planning commission to begin the review.
I second on the mayor's motion. I like that. That sounded like a motion all in itself. Jen, did you happen to capture that?
Yes, that's recorded.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion.
All right, I second. Roll call, please.
Let's see. Rundell,
Yes.
Ackley,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
Easter.
Yes.
Thank
Almost
you.
Easter.
He seconded it, he better.
Yep. So, all right then, if we have nothing further, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Motion for adjourn. Oh, Mr.
Yeah,
Wolfson?
discussion, a little thing to add to that. I think it is time that we started to do a review, this is purview of the Planning Commission, to start a review of the master plan. It's been over 5 years now, and part of our ordinance is we have to start soon doing a review of the master plan, which would feed in with some of the ordinance changes and ideas that have to be done. So I just thought it was a good idea, Mayor Ackley, we start doing that. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
We adjourned.
Second.
Second. All right, in
All in
favor?
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone.